So, can you speculate how Mark saw Jesus after his death? Did he believe that there was a resurrection? Or
Oh,
was he just
absolutely. Absolutely. The author of Mark sees Jesus as the transfiguration in chapter 9 of Mark. That's what we call it. That vision on the mountain. I think it was on Mount Hermon, actually. Most of us are coming to see that geographically. You went on my tour. Remember, we went up to Mount Hermon and kind of talked about that by Caesarea Philippi. It's not Mount Tabor, I'm sorry to say, even though it's my name. So they're up on Mount Hermon. That's a vision of the kingdom of God. You got Moses, Elijah, Jesus glorified in heavenly glory. Mark certainly believes that has happened to Jesus. But remember what the young man, not the angel, says in the tomb. There's no angels. There's no earthquake. There's no declaration. There are no appearances in our earliest copies of Mark. He says, go to the Galilee and you will meet him as he said. Now, one way of taking that is the way John took it. Luke doesn't have anything about the Galilee, but John and Matthew says, oh, they went up to the mountain and they had a vision of Jesus, but Matthew says, but some doubted. So that's not really impressive, is it? Yeah, I'm not sure it's him. That's what it says in Matthew. And then he tells them to go preach the gospel and so forth. In John, they're fishing, remember? But there's another gospel that would be much closer to Mark. And Dom Crossan has talked about this a lot, and I agree with him, and I think Bart Ehrman as well. The Gospel of Peter. Unfortunately, it breaks off. But you know what the last line of the Gospel of Peter says? It says, we wept and cried for 7 days. This is Passover. The Jews in the audience will know, oh yeah, Passover is 8 days. Well, why would they weep and cry for 7 days if he's been appearing to them every day? They're eating together. He's risen, Easter. So here's a tradition, just like Mark, that they're weeping and crying. And Peter says, I'm going fishing, back to the work. And then it breaks off. Boy, I wish we had the rest. My guess is they went up to Galilee and had some kind of a vision of Jesus in power and glory, like the transfiguration. And I think that's what Mark is hinting at. I learned that from Norman Perrin. It's not unique to me, but lots of us would say that Mark's resurrection is more ascent to heaven and glorification. As you know, I wrote a book on that, Paul's ascent to paradise and all. So you follow. In other words, it's not like a corpse got resuscitated and was walking around Jerusalem and we saw the wounds and all that. Mark doesn't care about revived corpses. He would care about Jesus being exalted to the right hand of God and being glorified like Moses and Elijah in what we call an apotheosis. And I think that's what the Markan community is looking to. And that would actually fit in with Paul, who's also early, who says when Jesus comes, the followers will also rise up, right? And get instantaneously transformed into these new glorified spirit beings. I think Mark thinks something like that. That's, I think, the earliest view of the Jesus followers.